What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Blended Couple on Fire podcast, season 3, episode 24. I actually like the title because my wonderful babe of a wife came up with it. The Lazy Spouse's Guide to the 5 Love Languages. And that's coming up
right now.
Are you a Christian and you are looking to take your faith, your family, and your future to the next level?
Then this is the channel for you.
What's up, everybody? What's up, Marky Mark in the Funky Bunch? Hey, if you are on and you don't mind, please do us a favor, smash the share button. We would really appreciate it. So, today's episode is actually going to be pretty fun. I think we have a lot of good stuff in store. So.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff. We were just talking about just before we got on.
No, we don't tell the story yet.
Why? About the gym?
Oh, yeah. No,
yeah, okay. Fine. Yeah, that one's fine. We have lots of funny stories. All the time funny stories. So we were just getting ready. We were literally, the countdown was happening. We were talking. And she said something about the elliptical. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, will the elliptical do that? And I'm like, yeah, the elliptical will do that. And she's like, okay. And she's like, yeah, but I don't want to go to Planet Fitness. I want to go to the Davison Athletic Club. And we used to go to the Davison Athletic Club, but we switched over because it was so much more expensive.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, we've had a membership at Planet Fitness for over a year. Guess how many times we've been?
I would say like 6 months.
No, it's not. It has been over a year. It's been over a year.
So.
Yeah. So can you take a guess how many times we've been? How many times, babe?
Goose egg.
We've been 0 times. And she's like, I don't care.
So we did pay $120 a month for a family membership at the DAC, and we went. And now we're paying $70 a month, and we don't go at all.
Right. So, right.
And I told them, I'm like, I don't want to go to the Planet Fitness. I want to go to the Davison Athletic Club because I've been there and I'm comfortable with it.
But she's never been to Planet Fitness before.
Nope.
So
don't need to. Don't want to.
I think that's just so funny. That's just so funny. Okay, so today we want to talk about the 5 love languages. If you haven't had an opportunity yet to take the 5 love languages exam, quiz, test, whatever it is that they want to call it.
It's free, so you should.
It is completely free, yep. So I would suggest Googling 5 love languages, and it's the top result, and you can go there, you can take it. Christy and I have taken it a few times. We took it again.
Last night.
Yeah, before we...
as a refresher.
As a refresher, right, to see if we're still the same people. And so I believe that
and
we
you
are.
do change. You do change, like, as you get older with different seasons of your life, you know.
Yep.
I don't remember what mine was. We could probably look it up in our emails or something when I was in my 30s. But, you know, you change when you get into your 40s, you know. You become wiser and realize that there's more important things in life.
That's true. And your love languages do change. And Mark, I believe, is saying once because that's how many times he's been. Or he was guessing we went.
Yeah, he was guessing.
He was guessing once.
Wrong. It's 0.
That's way more times than we've ever been, Mark. We've never been even once. So, all right. So we want to kick it off, right? Beginning, we want to talk about the 5 love languages. So what are the 5 love languages? So that's what this very first slide is really to just kind of discuss what they actually are. So you can see at the list that we have on the screen, right? All the different 5. All the far left side is where they all are. And then the other 3 categories kind of talks a little bit about it. So receiving gifts, quality time, acts of service, physical touch, and words of affirmation. So receiving gifts, as you can see, is kind of how to communicate it, right? So thoughtfulness and make your partner a priority. That's what it makes. That's how someone feels when receiving gifts is their number one. So the way that the test works, it actually kind of breaks this down in percentages and kind of discusses a little bit about, you know, how much of each one of these categories in a percentage-wise is something that you prefer, is your love language on receiving. And I think that's a big misunderstanding for a lot of people is our love language is about how we receive love, not give love, right? And so, but what they say is that the tendency of receiving is typically of how we're most comfortable giving. Mm-hmm. And that's why we want to talk a lot about this today.
So for those of you that are listening, though, and not watching, it's a graph that Josh found that lists the 5 love languages out, and then one column says how to communicate. That next one is actions to take, and then the other column is things to avoid. And like receiving gifts, it is thoughtfulness, and you make your partner a priority. Quality time is one-on-one mandatory time without cell phones. Acts of service is let them know you are wanting to lighten their load. Physical touch is nonverbal use of touch to show love. Yep. Words of affirmation is encourage, affirm, appreciate, and listen actively.
Yeah.
So that some of the actions that you can take for receiving gifts is give thoughtful gifts or pick up something on the way home from work. Yeah. Quality time is, you create special moments. Acts of service is like you make them dinner or you help them with errands. Physical touch is hugs, cuddling, holding hands. Words of affirmation is send an unexpected card or text. Or, you can write a little note and put it somewhere for them to find.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think this is just a good example of what all the different types of, 5 love languages that we have. Like the first one that I always think of, and we're going to talk about what ours is. We want to talk a little bit about that, but like quality time. Quality time defined wise is very different for everybody. Everybody has something different the way they're going to define all of these. So a quality time thing can be, alone time, one-on-one time, or a quality time thing can be with the family, right? A lot of times people say quality time is just as long as we're all together with the whole family, where in marriages, especially in blended families, I think quality time seems to lean more towards one-on-one time with your spouse. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would agree with that? Yeah. And then like receiving gifts doesn't always have to be a monetary thing. Receiving gifts can be something that's either made, created, it could be just anything. I'm trying to think of something that would be considered
a star after them.
A receiving gift, right? Right. That's actually true. It could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's all different types of things that receiving gifts, and then acts of service is just really just doing something that's not being asked. And sometimes it is being asked, and being joyful about doing it, wanting to do it. It's kind of like that movie with Vince Vaughn in it, and she's like,
the breakup.
The breakup, where she's like, I want you to want to do the dishes. That's kind of an act of service thing, right? He doesn't want to do it, but it's not about what he wants to do. Her love language was acts of service, so he should have volunteered, because knowing that she wants him to do that, then he would do that. And that's kind of a good example.
Which a lot of guys don't understand that. Like, it's not like we want you to want to do the dishes. We want you to want to do the dishes with us because it's helping us and we're asking you and things like that. So I have a funny story. So before we started this podcast, I was like, don't put the graph up yet. I want to see if I can name off all of the love languages myself, and I'm going through and I'm like, acts of service, quality time, physical touch. What was the other one? I don't even remember now. I was trying to, receiving gifts. And I named off those 4 and I'm like, what is the other one? What is it? And I'm like, I don't know. And then I looked and I'm like, it's words of affirmation. I'm like, oh, and that's yours. And I forgot.
That's my number 1, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But yeah, it was pretty funny. I'm like, of course, right? It's the one that she doesn't remember what it is. And it's my number 1 is words of affirmation. So
I could name off all 4.
That should tell you a lot, right?
Not that one, though.
But it's important that we understand each one, like physical touch, right? Physical touch doesn't necessarily always mean intimate type of touch, right? It doesn't always mean that. It means just putting a hand on, right? Holding hands in public. There's all different types of physical touch that it could be. And I would say most likely it's a lot less of intimate stuff than it is about just, nonchalant in passing, just preferring to touch, right?
That is typically what it means, though.
Yeah.
Is to like hold hands or
just rub your shoulder, place your hand on you.
Or when you're sitting somewhere, put your arm around them, things like that.
Yeah. And then words of affirmation, of course, are supporting, leveling words. Christy doesn't know what those are, but we're gonna help her.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, so what is ours, right? So I want to talk about like what is ours. This is the graph that Christy and I have. That this is something that if you go and you do this and you at the end of your quiz, it shows you exactly your percentages. So you can see Christy's at the top. Her number 1 is quality time. 37% of hers is quality time, and then 30% is physical touch. Words of affirmation is 17. Acts of service is 17, and receiving gifts, I never have to give her anything ever for her life because it is a 0.
Which is actually true.
Which is kind of funny. I don't know. It's kind of funny. You like getting like flowers.
Yeah.
You like getting that stuff.
I'd rather get a massage. I'd rather go to the movies.
That's very
I'd
true.
rather go away for the weekends.
Yeah. Look at your little graph to the left. It shows a little red dot. Yours is just a dot. It's not even a dash. It just shows a dot.
For the receiving gifts.
Yeah, for the receiving gifts. It's funny. So mine is words of affirmation, and mine is 33% affirmation. Quality time is 23. Physical touch is 20. Acts of service 17. And then, yes, people, I like 7% of the time to receive some type of a gift.
I personally think the point of this, like Josh said, like I like receiving flowers. I think the whole point of this, though, is this is my love language, quality time. So receiving gifts is 0% for me because, yes, I like flowers, but I would have no bitterness or no qualms going out because I like fresh flowers in the house, buying some flowers myself, bringing them home and putting them in a vase.
Yeah, true.
And I just like the fact, like the last time he got me flowers, it was this most gorgeous bouquet of tiger lilies and other flowers mixed in. And they just made the house so bright and vibrant and they smelled really well. But that's not my love language, so I appreciated it. So next time, if I wanted them, I wouldn't have any problem going out and just buying them for myself and bringing them home to make the house better. I really need quality time. That's my number one love language. And so if I don't get quality time, our relationship gets on tilt, like we like to call it, because I'm not being loved the way that I need to be loved.
So true.
And then you can go through yours now. Sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I think it's so important in families, especially blended families, that we really highly communicate to our partners, what we need. Now, I know it's easy as time goes on when you're in together for 5, 10, 20 years for you to say, you should know by now. I shouldn't have to tell you. Right? Because that's true. It's not untrue. But I think it's so important that we continuously communicate like, look, I need more of this from you. Christy's actually really good at that. Not saying she doesn't get frustrated with me, right? I'm a guy, right? So it's hard. Certain things are really hard for me. And I have to be reminded sometimes, and typically through grit teeth, but she does do it. She's like, hey, I need you to hold my hand. I need you to touch me more. I need you to do these things. And, we need more time. She's mentioned it just before we even got on here. She's like, no, we do need more quality time. We need more quality time. And we do, right? And I need to make sure that I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that I fulfill that, not get frustrated with it. Because my number one isn't quality time, but mine is on there. So I understand it. And a lot of times we have to make sure that we're speaking into our partner, into their quality time, but it's also our responsibility to make it aware to our partner of what we need or what we're lacking of.
Yeah. And like Josh said in the beginning, though, what we tend to do is love our partner in our own love language. And then we wonder, like, we feel like we're trying so hard to do all these things, but that's not their love language. Like, I try to give him compliments and give him words of affirmation. I compliment more on the way that I think he looks, to me. And that's stuff that I'm craving myself, though. Like, words of affirmation for Josh would be like, hey, I'm really proud of you. I'm so glad that you're like talking about things that he's actually doing. That's the things that he needs. And a lot of times I'm really good at loving him in my own love language, which actually isn't filling his love tank at all.
Yeah. It's true. And I think it's not anything we get right overnight. It's something that we have to continuously work hard at. And it's consistently working towards doing and keeping that communication line open and saying, hey, like I'm lacking in this area. Like, I know it sounds like, I'm needy, but it's not about being needy. It's about being understood in your love language. And, the love languages are true. Like, this is all true for me. And would you say that yours is true for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that, we can do these, and even doing them every once in a while, once a year as a refresher.
Yeah, I think so too.
And doing them together, not getting on as a female or a male and just saying, hey, this is what my love language is. It's doing it together and being in this together, in this journey together, and understanding each other together.
Well, I think a good point, though, too, is Josh brought up how, after you're together for 20 years, even sometimes after people are together for 2 years, 3 years, people try to say, like, well, you should know this by now. Well, how would you feel if God looked at you and said that about you? Like, I sent my son to die on the cross for you. How much more do I need to do for you? How much more do I need to tell you that I love you and show you that I love you? But we forget so easily. And we're constantly praying, show me your presence, show me what you want me to do. And we forget so easily how much God loves us and adores us. So how much is our human partner going to feel that? Like, we think God can't live up to the standards of what we expect him of how to love us. Our partner, that's not fair. That's not a fair expectation to put on them to say, like, you should know by now. That isn't fair, because God could look at us and say, you should know by now. And we don't. So you have to correlate that with your Christian beliefs.
It is, and I'll be honest, right? Because I'm a guy, so I can say this, right? So most men,
I want you to say it.
Most men are emotional infants, right? We are, and it's difficult for us, right? We're very cut and dry. We're very simple. I don't need anybody, doing all of these extra emotional things for me to feel my love. And it's actually not true. It's actually untrue, but at the same time, we become so numb and even realizing the things that we need that we are fully in denial of the things that our partner needs. And so the soft skills are the ones that make our marriages win, gentlemen. Okay, it does. And women, we have to, as tiring as it gets, we have to remind these big dumb animals that you're with that, these are the things that you need, and doing it in the most caring way possible. I know it's frustrating. I know it is. I see her get frustrated with me all the time about certain things, all the time. And I know that she is, right? And I know that I frustrate her. And I don't do it intentionally. I do it, and I think that I'm trying as hard as I possibly can, but I still feel like I come up short sometimes. So that's why it's important that we continuously talk through these things in your family. Like your husband and wife, like you don't want to end up, if you've been divorced before, you don't want to end up that way again. And the only way to do that is to continuously talk about the things that you're struggling in. And a lot of times, women, that ends up being you, and that's hard, and that's a sucky thing. And guys, you guys need to be called to working harder on that. Them soft skills are important. Talking about the things that you need and talking about the things that your spouse needs, your wife needs, is so key and so important. And you don't give up, you keep working at it, because you don't have to be an infant emotionally forever. You can choose to not be. And it's hard.
Well, and if you remember, like at the beginning of your relationship, when you were having the same like fights or arguments about the same thing, and it comes up and it's like, I don't want to have the same fight again and have the same conversation, and you both would look at each other and be like, but I would never want to have it with anyone else but you. You need to remember that. Like 10 years down the road, when you're like, oh my gosh, how many times have we had to have this conversation? Yeah, but would we want to do it with anybody else? No. Would anybody else be able to handle my personality as well and graciously as he does? No. And would anybody else be able to handle him the way that I handle him? No, I really do not feel like there could be. And we have to take, like, it's good to do these things, to have reminders that I need to give him more words of affirmation. And women, when your guy, like he's saying, is a big dumb animal. Yes. And not giving you your love language, though, what is their love language? A lot of guys want to be respected. I know this is kind of going on a little bit of a different topic, but there's the book Love and Respect, and women, like to be loved and men like to be respected. I do think a lot of men's love language will also circle around respect. So if you go up to him, like his is words of affirmation, and I go up to him and say, I so, love and appreciate the way that you're leading our family, how God-fearing that you are, all the hard work that you do. If I'm constantly doing that and circling it around respect, then it'll fill up his tank. And that's something that we need to be reminded to do, because we get so caught up in our daily lives. I mean, we can look and read the stories in the Bible. Like, Jerusalem is such idiots. Like, how, like, it's real. I mean, like, how can they seriously forget so quickly everything that God did for them? And they just, 10 days later, they're arguing about this. And then 10 days later, they're throwing a fit about this. And we do the same thing. If we actually pay attention, we forget and do the same exact things all the time. We need to have reminders. We need to have convictions. That's why prayer is so important. Praying together is so important, because you'll get reminders from God and the Holy Spirit. You'll get convicted about how you need to be loving your spouse, and you need to be loving them sacrificially like God loves us. And that's what you'll be convicted about. And you need to know how their tank needs to get filled. And his tank needs to get filled with words of affirmation. And I'm not always good at it at all. I come home and I word vomit on him about my day. And there is no affirmation to him at all.
No, but the thing is with her, though, is she never stops trying, though, in these areas. And I hope that she feels the same way about me. Like, even though it feels like a lot of times you're coming up short in certain areas, it's just the act of like, man, really putting effort in. Like, I can see the effort, even though a lot of this stuff is easy for me to just forget. As soon as she's like, I see her trying, it's like I kind of forget about all the other stuff. I forget about it because I'm like, man, she really cares about my love language. Like she cares about pouring into Josh, like to me. Like I've told, don't shy away from this. My wife is an incredible leader, and she has taught me a lot over the years. And so in the beginning of our relationship, I was not a spiritual leader. I was barely a believer, not a follower at all. And as we began our journey into our spiritual walk, my wife had to learn how to lead me from the behind, from the back, and say, I have to be able to support him to get him to a position to where he feels like now he can take the lead. And that takes a lot from a woman, a lot to do that, right? She has to lower all of her pride to do things like that. And she understood the value in it. And I think we can take so much from that, at least I can, about how important it is to value what's good for your partner next to what's good for you. And I don't mean put yourself in a position to lose, but I mean put yourself in a position to help your partner win. And we do that by speaking into their love languages. As hard as it is sometimes for us to do it, that's why it's so important that we do that. And we just keep working hard at it. We don't ever stop working hard at pouring into the love language of our partner.
No, we need to be honest with ourselves too. Like my love language is quality time. And do we get quality time? We don't. And it's scheduled in probably actual quality time, like going away for the weekend or going out for the night or something once every few months lately.
Yeah.
But if I take a step back and look at it, instead of being angry about it, I'm the main person that does our schedule. And he is a giver and he's a servant heart and he will give, do, constantly be around other people all the time, pouring into them. And I love serving other people and coaching other people and being around other people as well. Not as much as him. I need more alone time too. But then I'm the one that's in control of our schedule. We don't do anything that Christy doesn't put in our calendar. So if I need quality time, I can sit and get bitter and say, I would appreciate it. Like if you could just say, hey, I want to go away for the night. And can you tell me the next weekend we have available? Because I want to do that for you, but you do all these things. Or I could be like, hey, I need quality time. And our next available weekend is 4 weekends from now. And we're doing something and I'm putting it in the calendar. And if you schedule anything else in there, I may murder you. And then he knows.
And that's how it happens. And then I'm still here. So I apparently go in along with this plan enough to where I'm not murdered.
Yeah.
So,
but then once we get into the quality time, he's great. He's all like paying the attention to me. I have all the attention that I need. So we need to make sure that we're putting the effort in for our needs as well and not expecting our partner just to read our mind. That's not fair.
That's so misguided.
Yeah.
It's so misguided, I think, in all ways in your relationship.
That's the you should know by now type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, all the way down to intimacy. Like, you have to be speaking into your partner about you, about your preference. How do I need to be loved? How do I need, not it's you should know by now or anybody would know more than you know. That is not nurturing a healthy relationship between you and your spouse.
You're supposed to be on the same team.
If one wins, you both win. And that should be the idea of the whole thing. Like, there is no me win without her winning. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
Yes.
And we have to...
It's a three-legged race, people.
That's it.
He can't cross the finish line unless I cross the finish line.
Yes. Yeah, because... For us, divorce is not an option. It's not ever going to be the option.
Not again.
Right. It's already happened, so it's not an option, right? It's not an option. It's not. There is no eject button in this marriage. There is not. And we want to make sure that we do everything in our power to make sure that our relationship is better next year than it was this year. And the only way we do that is intentionality and knowing that we're pouring into our spouse, not the way that we want to, not the way that we're comfortable with, it reminds me of the old Homer Simpson thing where he buys Marge a birthday present and she opens it and it's a bowling ball with his name on it. Like, I feel like that's how we treat.
Welcome.
Yeah, that's how we treat our spouses anymore when it comes to love languages. Excuse me. And we can't do that. We have to stop and say, okay, this is hard for me to do it, but it's important that I do it. It's important that I do.
Oh. So I do have one gift recently that a lot of people have been purchasing for me.
Oh my goodness.
And I do appreciate that gift.
28 gifts.
Okay, so it's Coke Zero Vanilla, and everyone knows that you cannot find it anywhere. It is like
because we have it all.
It's like the great white elephant. Okay, so it's like it's hidden places. It's like the Easter egg in Call of Duty. And I have people that are out looking for this stuff now, and I have 28 cases of it. And they're all stacked up in my home, and I will be able to drink Coke Zero Vanilla now for at least a little bit. Like I normally drink one a day, and tonight I'm having two because I am like,
why not?
I have enough. I'm drinking another one. Yeah.
She thinks she's the Queen of England, okay, with all of her Coke Zero Vanilla now.
See, Sarah even says she looks every time. She's never found it. It's like the great white elephant.
Yeah, because we have it all, Sarah. It's all in our home. Like, it looks like we have a pallet of Coke Zero Vanilla in our house. Okay, but yes, that's true. That is a gift that you do want to receive, which means we need to go back and be truthful about one of your things because that was at 0.
Yeah, but that's from you. These are from other people.
Oh my gosh, that's manipulation. That should be on there too. Yeah, but the point is that we have to make sure that when we're in a marriage that we are speaking the language of our partner, not speaking the language of us. And what we do is when we pour into our partner and we feel like we're not getting our tank filled in return, not because I'm doing this, you should do this. That's not what I'm talking about.
No.
I'm saying if you feel like it's not being filled and you're missing out, you need to speak up. Kindly, softly, loving, caring, even if it's the 378th time you've had to have the conversation, keep having it until your partner understands how important it is, or literally spell it out, write it down for them, because maybe they just are not hearing or seeing what you're trying to tell them. That happens.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you agree?
Yep, I do. One of the greatest things for me, and I used to talk to even my girlfriends about it. It's not even just about marriages, but it's about the biggest thing for me that was so freeing is to just talk to my friend or my spouse about what I'm feeling and what I need. And another great question was to ask the person if they're coming to me about something, what do you need from me, type of thing. Yep. So if I was having a friend that never text me back or something, or if I never heard from them and I wanted to hear from them, then I would text them. Like instead of putting my expectations on that person. And I've had that conversation before with other people where they're like, you never text me. You never ask about me. And I'm like, but you know me. You know that I do care about you. And I'm sorry, that's not my language. That's not the thing that I think to do is text you every day to ask you how you're doing because I have a family and I have a job and I have all these things. That doesn't mean I care about you any less. If you want to hear from me every day though, text me then. Like fulfill your tank by what you need from me by texting me. I'm not the people that just don't respond to text messages because that is one of my biggest pet peeves. I know you have your phone in your hand sometime within a 24-hour period. Okay, you can return a text message. It takes 2 minutes. So I'm like, then text me. Like if you need that, don't sit around waiting for me to text you. Never text me and then be mad because I didn't text you. That absolutely makes no sense. And it's the same way with your spouse. Like don't sit around being mad because your spouse never makes quality time with you without being asked. Tell them like, okay, hey, we haven't had quality time in a while. I know you've probably forgotten about my love language, but I need us to sit down and look at our calendar and make some quality time for me. And then what's he going to say? He's going to say, yes, of course. I want to fulfill that. I'm so sorry that you're right. We've been so busy that we've completely forgotten. And then we do it together. And that's it. And it's so much easier and the relationship gets so much stronger and it's so much better and you waste so much less time fighting, which is just a waste of time, or being mad and he doesn't even know that I'm mad and I'm just walking around for days just angry. He has no idea why. He doesn't want to ask.
He'll figure it out.
So it just cuts right through and just is like, okay, like this is what I need and this is what I want.
So if you know me, you know that I'm the one that cooks in our house.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm the one that cooks. So, Christy, how often do I ask you if you like what I cooked?
Every day.
Every day.
Every single day.
Every single day. Does it get tiring?
It does. And now I'm not. Like, yeah. So for the first few years, it didn't. Like, he'd come home and he'd put a lot of effort, makes 4-course meals, tries to make something different every single day. And then he would tell me like, it's a lot of work trying to make something different every single day and trying to think of new things. And I'm like, I've never expected that, like ever. And he's like, yeah, but if I didn't, then you'd get tired of it. Like he puts a lot of thought into it. And then for the first few years, and then there was a couple years where I'm like, he would be like, I would barely get a bite in my mouth. I'm like, he's like, is it good? And I'm like, yes. But then I found myself getting agitated by it. But why? Why? Like, his love language is words of affirmation. That is something that he does to show his love for the family. And he wants to know if it's good or not good. And he's actually super gracious about it. Like, if anyone in the family was just like, I really don't like it, he never makes it again, but he asks why. Like, what is it about it that you don't like?
Yep.
And he makes adjustments from there. And now I haven't even noticed. And he does ask me every single day. Asks me every day, is it good? Is it good? Is it good? But I've realized with him now, like, God will convict us and open up our eyes to things about ourselves, because we are completely oblivious to our own annoyances at all. I mean, we actually think that we're not annoying. We may say like, oh yeah, I'm sure I'm annoying, but we really don't believe how annoying that we are to some people. And I ask him every time that I sing at church. I don't sing every single week, but every time I get done singing, and I walk down and I get next to him, I am like, did that sound okay? Did that sound good? And he's like, yes, babe, it sounds good. It sounds good. Like, every single time. But I ask him every time because I want that reassurance from him.
And I'm honest. Like, if you're like didn't sing loud enough, I'm like, oh man, I really wish you would have sang louder. Like,
yeah,
I'm not dishonest about it.
No.
And neither is she about the food
But you're
thing.
not malicious.
No, and I think that's what the whole point that we're trying to make is, like, you can be honest with your partner. And yes, it's to her, yeah, she gets tired of me asking every single day, but I do. And it's almost like I almost can't even help it, because it's important that I hear that I did a good job for her, because I want to do a good job for her, even in the smallest, weirdest, dumbest crap that I make. Like, she was like, oh yeah, okay, you have to ask again. You've made this thing like 48 times, like you need to hear, right? And it's like, yeah, no, put a little twist on it. And she's like, I know, I didn't like that part of it.
I'm gonna start handing him my paycheck every week and being like, did I do a good job?
I'll be like, no, I wouldn't do that.
So mean.
Because words of affirmation isn't your thing.
It's not.
No, but she knows, right? And that's just true, right? She's never asked me, like, do you like the way that I provide for the family? Do you? No, because I tell her all the time how proud I am of her, because that's my words. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's my thing.
True.
So,
that's true.
So it's funny how that works, So it's not about getting annoyed by what your partner's trying to tell you that they need. Like,
right.
This is so tiring. It shouldn't look as tiring. It should be like, okay, man, this
should be endearing.
Yes, my spouse is really needing something from me, and they do it so often that they are desiring something from me. And
that's cute. If you change your perspective on it, though, it's cute.
Yeah, it is cute, and it's like I'm needed.
Yeah, it's like he asks me every day, and I'm like, oh, he's so cute.
Yeah, because it's important to me, and I need to hear that. I need to hear something about it. I need to have some type of evaluation done. And like she said, if it's bad, it's bad. Tell me it's bad. Tell me you don't like it. And then I won't do it again, but it's important.
I always try to make decisions though. Like me personally, if I make a decision, I always try to make decisions that's what's best for the team that I'm at the moment. So I'm always trying to make decisions what's best for him and I. I went out to breakfast the other morning with two of my friends, and I'm always like, they're looking at what they're going to order, and I'm looking like, where are we going to sit? I don't want to sit close to the very front of the place because it's right by the front door. People are coming in and out. It's louder.
Yep.
I don't want to sit in the very back because the way that this specific restaurant is set up is it's small. It's a coffee shop, so it's small. It's quaint. So there's only really seating along one side.
Yeah, it's thin and long.
So then the other, because it was busy, there was a few people in there that had the good tables. So the other tables that were available were all the way in the back, and they're right in front of the bathrooms. So people would be coming in and out of the bathroom potentially. So the only other place was this high top kind of picnic table like thing that is handmade built. It's really nice to sit at. And so I'm like, hey, would you guys mind if we sat over at this table there? And they're like, no, that's fine. So I walked over and I start moving it around and positioning it so where that we could all, us three could fit at it, and a couple of us could sit on one side, all the stuff. And I found this out later, but one of the girls looked at me and she's like, no, Christy, we don't want to sit there. And I'm like, you don't? Why? Like that. And she started busting up laughing, and she had said to the other girl, she's like, I wonder what she would do if we told her, no, we don't want to sit there. And then they thought that was like super funny. But that's how I get when I'm like trying to make decisions that's best for him and I. So that's what you need to do for your relationships though. Like, I need to make decisions that's best for him. And then if I did something and he's like, I didn't like that decision, it hurts my heart.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that we're being conscious and not do things in a malicious way. Like if he wants to know how his food was, if it was something that I really didn't like, I need to be like, I could have done with more onions in it or less mushrooms, but he doesn't put mushrooms. Both of us hate mushrooms, so I don't.
Mushrooms are from the devil, so
I have to worry about that. But sometimes it's fun to have fun with one another, just to
jokingly.
See. Yeah,
yeah.
He's done that with me. Like I'll ask him a question and he'll tell me something. I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah, she's the funniest person she knows, which is really funny. When she says something that's funny that she thinks is really funny, I almost cry from laughing every single time because she cracks up so hard. I'm like, that was barely funny, but you loved what you said so much.
And a lot of times I'm doing this before I tell him.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I tell him and I'm busting up laughing. And he doesn't think it's funny really at all. And I'm like cracking up. Because I think it's so funny in my head. Like I've already replayed it a bunch and I've already had the punchline and it's already great. And then I tell him and he's just like, I'm laughing so hard because you're laughing so hard.
Yeah.
Not because it's funny.
And I always know one's coming because she's like, she starts to tell me like that. It's so funny. But it is important that we're honest with our spouses about the things. And so not just tell them what they want to hear, because that gets frustrating on our behalf. And our spouses aren't stupid. They know that we're just telling them what they want to hear
your spouse is stupid.
To appease them. A good example... Wow. So, and a good example of that is let's say that your spouse likes to go hunting, right? Women, your husband he's a big hunter. He wants to go hunting. And So this is an example, right? It's like, okay, I know it's hunting season and it's something that you like, so I'm just going to go. I hate it, but I'm going, right? It's what you want from me, so I'm just going to do it. Okay, that's not how you handle it. Same thing with the guys, right? If your wife wants to go, see the ballet or something, be like, okay, you know that I hate doing this, but I'm doing it just for you. This is me pouring into your love language. Like, that is not how it should be done, right? Whether you want to or not, if it's something that your spouse desires, if it's their love language, you should want to do that for them. Like it should
make you feel good.
Yeah, it should. And if it doesn't, like you got to work towards that. Work hard on it. Pray about it. Work on God changing your heart and how you feel about specific things. And that's a hard thing to do because God has now made us one, right? We are one being. That's under God has done that for us. And so we need to trust in what he's doing in our lives and make sure that we enjoy each other and we want to pour love into the other, right? It's not always easy. There's a lot of these love languages that Christy has. It's hard for me. It's really hard for me. But I want her happy. Like I want to do everything in my power that God has gifted me to be able to do what I can to pour into her love language. So I work really hard at doing it. And a lot of times I fall short, but I try.
One of the things that he's told me is that he loves that when I write him like a little note and hide it somewhere. And he has mentioned it to me on more than one occasion, how much he appreciates that. And when he does, like he has one of them that he has saved. It's still in his backpack. And how many times in almost 11 years have I done that? Maybe 3. Yeah. Maybe 3 times. So is he walking around super mad that I don't do that more? No, he's not. And now that I talk about it, I don't think to do it, except for the time that I do think to do it, which is obviously like 3 times.
Yeah.
I do it then. So I need to make more conscious effort for that. Because the words of affirmation, like his is words of affirmation, that also means like a little note or something that I could tell him of how good job of he's doing. So let's move on to number 3.
Well, I mean, you really the whole point of it, right? The title of this show today was The Lazy Spouse's Guide to 5 Love Languages. And this is the laziest thing that you can do, right? Is figure it out, take the quiz, figure it out, and just start doing it. It's lazy, it's simple, it's easy. It's not trying to work hard at figuring your spouse out. That's the hard way, okay? So our final thing is how to use these love languages to make your marriage stronger. How can you use these love languages to make your marriage stronger?
Yeah, and I want to make these tangible for all couples. Like I was joking around a little bit with Josh earlier about quality time or receiving gifts, and I'm like, okay, receiving gifts, like if you're uber rich, you could get a private jet and fly your wife to Italy. Okay, if you're super rich. If you're poor, then you go to the dollar store, you grab a cup, like her favorite candy that she likes, You grab a card because at the dollar store, they're usually 2 for $1. So that's 50 cents. And you write her a little note and her favorite candy. And then you take it home to her. And that's her receiving gift. You can figure something out to do.
Yep.
You can. Quality time. If I know before Josh and I got together, I wanted quality time with my kids because I'm a quality time person and I want quality time with people that I like being around. And so my kids, I would take them to Formar. Around here in Michigan, there's a little park that you can take people to, Formar. It's actually a quite large park that you can walk around. It's like an animal sanctuary. And it's free to go to. And you can take them in the little building and you can see the turtles and bees and things like that. And then you can walk around the ponds and it's free to do. Yeah. And that you could do that with your spouse. Like if your spouse wants quality time, you could say, I'm going to take you to out in nature. Nature, we all have an innate want, or we get this sense of peace when we go out in nature because I think it's God's miracle in front of our face, when we're Christians. So you could say, hey, I'm just, let's leave our phones in the car and let's go just for like an hour or two and walk around this park if it's nice. I don't want to go in the winter. But that's quality time with someone. If it's acts of service, that is the cheapest thing. If you're short on funds, that you can do is if that's your husband's love language or your wife's love language. Your wife, it's probably easier for you. You could do something around the house or you could do the dishes for her. But usually, stereotypical, I'm sorry, but the husbands usually are the ones that take the trash out. You can take the trash out for him on trash day. That's an act of service for him to do occasionally that would surprise him, when he got up. Physical touch doesn't matter if you're, financially set or not. That's self-explanatory. Yeah. And so is words of affirmation. Now, if you have extra money in your budget, words of affirmation, your partner probably has a favorite scripture or a favorite quote of some sort. You could go get it engraved into something and bring it home. And then that's 2 for 1. Okay, it's a gift. It's words of affirmation.
Booyah.
Type of thing.
Yeah. And it is important that you focus on what it is that your spouse wants, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're trying to say. Like, what is it going to make your marriage stronger? And I can't speak for Christy, but I'm pretty sure, it's the effort that goes so far. It's the effort that just makes a difference. If I had every woman that's ever watched this episode right now, take a blind poll, we didn't know who they were, and they said, if my husband just tried, I bet we would score 1,000 women that would agree to that. I just want my husband to try.
Not even daily,
just in general.
If we notice
put in the
once
effort.
A week.
Yeah. Put in the effort, because life gets busy and hectic, but your marriage is the centrifuge, around Jesus. Your marriage is a centrifuge. It keeps everything together. And if we're not focusing on our marriage first before all this other garbage fills in the difference, like we're really missing the point of what God's trying to do in our lives, especially in blended families. We have so many other aspects that are trying to divide. We have exes that are causing problems, and we have children that aren't happy with the spouse that we chose. And we have all these other things that we're constantly trying to fix and mend and take care of and crock-pot it. And, but what are you doing in your marriage? Are you paying attention to the love languages? And are you stepping out and doing those are you putting in the extra effort and making sure that it's getting done? I understand we're all tired. We all get it. And it's not easy for most any of us. It's hard to remember. But doing it and making the effort to do it can make the difference between a good marriage and a bad marriage.
And I know a lot of people, like when they have littles, like little kids, we're out of the little kid phase, thank God. But when they have little kids, they're like, well, quality time is super hard when you have little kids. And I agree with that. But it's no different than, when I had my first son and I went into the doctor and I am like crying. And I'm like, how are you supposed to clean the house, eat, shower, pay the bills, grocery shop, do all these things? Nope. This baby never sleeps. This baby always wants to be around. He's always hungry. And the doctor's like, he does take naps. So you have to give yourself a break and you have to allow yourself to shower while he's napping, or you sleep while he's sleeping, or you pick away at the house when he's sleeping. And it's no different. Like if you're in a marriage and you have small kids that still take naps, you guys need to take advantage of that small amount of time and not get to be like, oh, it's only going to be an hour type of thing. You need to take advantage of that time. If that's your partner's love language, that quality time, and sit and talk with one another. Like, how is everything going? Let's talk about our schedule for the next couple months. Is there anything that we could get away? Could we plan maybe a whole date night and not just like this hour of nap time? Is there someone that we could ask babysit? Because I want to spend time with you. And that is putting in effort. That is trying.
It is.
And that helps fill the tank, you know, a little bit. So, and I didn't know about that, Sarah, that Denny's has the biggest and most beautiful roses. A bouquet is only $5.99. She said she doesn't know, but she heard that from a friend.
She goes, maybe it's if it's a daily thing or not. Yeah, $6. And that's if your spouse, you know, if that's something that your spouse likes and appreciates.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, even if your spouse hates stuff like that, even if you put in the effort and you did do something like that, you know, you stepped out in faith and says, hey, I'm not too sure if this is something you'll know. Right?
Your spouses don't want you. Okay, if you get upset or you're bitter because your spouse has brought you home flowers and you would prefer not flowers, would you want them giving them to somebody else?
Ooh.
No.
That's a bumper sticker.
So you need to be appreciative.
Yeah. So love languages, it's important. Take the test. Go Google 5 love languages. There's a couples one that you can take. I would suggest doing that. I would suggest sitting down with the report and talking about it with your spouse, but not just talking about the results, talking about what that result means to you, right? And asking your partner, what do you think this means? You know, what do you think this means?
And like Josh it was a joke, but it's true. Before we started the podcast, I'm like, well, mine is quality time. It's quality time. And he goes, yeah, but I have to talk to you like on a week-to-week basis because it changes depending on you, which is true. Sometimes my quality time is we can go lay in our bedroom and we can just lay and watch a movie, not say one word to get to each other. We're just laying next to each other. And then, okay, so he gets on that kick, let's just say for like a month. And then all of a sudden I'm like, we're not getting any quality time. And he's like, what do you mean? We've done this. I'm like, no, I want to go out and I want to go for a walk. Yeah. And I don't want to have our phones. So he has to adjust based on what I'm feeling for my quality time is. I want little snippets of different quality time sprinkled throughout the year. And the quality time isn't always the same thing. Yeah. So thank God for him that he, you know, adjusts on the fly.
Well, it's the effort thing. And I think that's exactly what that speaks to. It's no different, you know, it's no different because words of affirmation for me varies as well. Like certain things that I'm looking for, certain things I'm like, okay, I get it. You always tell me that you like my butt or something, you know, like, thank you, you know, great.
I always compliment him on his looks. I do. That's my one thing. And that's because that's what I want him to do for me though, if I'm honest. But I'm always complimenting him on his looks because, you know, to me, he's the most handsome man I've ever seen in my entire life. Like every single bit of his entire being, from his fingertips to his hair to his feet, is just perfect.
I better be. Mm-hmm. No, but she does, and she's very complimentary about that. So her words of affirmation are not wrong. It's not that I don't appreciate that stuff, but when she hits it on the head, when she hits it with the right thing, it's like makes a huge difference with
he'll get all teary-eyed.
It does. It's like because that's what I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I needed. I didn't even realize I needed it. Mm-hmm. I didn't even understand. So it's so important that we continuously work hard at it. Don't quit. This isn't like, oh, got your 5 love languages. We know what they are. Good for 10 years. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. That's why pouring into your marriage consistently and constantly is the only way that you can guarantee success in your family.
And this is a lazy way to know how to love your spouse. Do the test together. You'll find out what their number 1 love language is. You can stop spinning your wheels on all these other things and you can focus on this one.
No guessing.
There's no guessing.
Yeah, there's no guessing. I mean, that's about as cheap as you can get for a relationship. Once you know what your spouse's love language is, dude, you could just hit that button every time. Like words of affirmation, I'll just tell her. She'll be elated and awesome and great and everything's wonderful for the most part. And so that's the biggest thing that a lazy spouse can do is keep pouring into the love languages, find out what it is, continuously work hard on it.
And sometimes we want to be lazy. I mean, life happens. It's like, oh my gosh, I just want to know what the right button is, the right thing to say, right thing to do, and I'll just do it. Right. You know? That's how we are.
With a big fake smile.
It's like, okay, I love you.
You cook good. It's fine. It's delicious.
Right. But it is delicious. Yeah.
So
that's why I get annoyed. He asks me and I'm like, yes, it's always good. For the love of Pearl. Your food is good.
Yeah, but sometimes she goes bananas. I don't even get a chance to ask her yet. And those are the most wonderful days of my life.
I'm like,
If you know her, this is not an exaggeration. She literally does it.
So good.
A good friend of ours the other day says something to me. We were together, and he goes, every time we're around Christy and she's getting ready to eat, she's like, I can't wait. Like, Mint Moose Tracks ice cream. And he goes, I'm thinking it the whole time she's saying it. It's just so funny to me.
I get excited about certain foods, like really, really excited. And then especially like if you set something in front of me and I'm not expecting it, like I'm super excited to eat and I'm like, But then I start eating it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I get goosebumps. Like I like food way too much.
Yeah.
And then we go to our doctor and our doctor's like, you need to do something about your weight. You hurt and your joints hurt because you're overweight.
Yeah, it's funny. I went to the doctor yesterday and I said, yeah, so I've really been having my back's been hurting a lot, my lower back. And he's not a small feller, okay? He's a big guy. And so I said, yeah, it's been hurting for a long time. He's like, well, if you lost some weight, that would probably help a lot with your lower back issues. I'm like, okay, buddy. Appreciate that.
I'm like, you're welcome. Okay, that's what he's done to me the last 2 or 3 times that I've been in there. He'll be seeing me for whatever I'm in there for. And then every time he'll look at me and he'll be like, the last time we were here, didn't we talk about you're doing something about your weight, right? I'm like, yes.
I got it. Nazi.
The scale's not going up, sir. Okay?
Right. Well, not for her. It did for me. Anyway. That's all we got for today. 5 love languages. Go and do it. Make sure you do it. Sit down, talk to your spouse about their love language, and explain to them in fine detail what your love language means to you.
Yes.
It's important. Do it. Do it today. All right. We want to thank everybody for being here. We'll see you guys next Tuesday, 7 p.m.
Bye.